Iran now can enrich uranium to 84% purity, which clearly is a dangerous situation, not least for Israel. They might see what they perceive to be, from what they've read and heard, an unchecked Israel government packed with what many people view as extremists, as a clear, well, as a threat to them. So,
okay.
Well, let me just put that to you, because people have said that.
Well, they say a lot of silly things. I mean, this is silly. Israel is a...
Now, this has come from Israelis who fear that that may send the wrong message to Iran.
Well, I think that's nonsense. I mean, I think all Israelis are united in seeing the danger of a nuclear Iran. All Israelis understand that, at least I understand, that it's my responsibility as the leader of the one and only Jewish state, which Iran calls for its annihilation, to do everything in our power to stop it. And Iran should know that I and Israel will do everything we can to stop it. It's got nothing to do with the composition of the government. It's got everything to do with the composition of our history and the fact that they're calling for our destruction.
Rishi Sunak said again in the readout from your meeting, our governments will continue to work closely together to push back against aggression from Iran and manage the risk of nuclear proliferation. But in reality, what can someone like Rishi Sunak on behalf of Britain do to help you in this situation?
I think, first of all, it's important to say it. I think it's important also to apply economic pressures. I think the combination of crippling economic sanctions and a credible military threat can hold back Iran's nuclear ambitions. I don't think, without a credible military threat, you're not going to stop Iran, just as the only thing that stopped Saddam Hussein was a credible military action on our part. The only thing that stopped Syria, Hafiz Assad, or rather Bashar Assad, from developing nuclear weapons is a credible military action on our part. Gaddafi feared a credible military action on the part of the US, so he gave up his nuclear weapons. North Korea didn't. So it has now nuclear weapons that can cover half of Asia and very soon perhaps the United States. Iran is 50 times more dangerous than North Korea, and we must do everything, and I must do everything, to prevent it from having nuclear weapons. What is required from the international community? Sanctions, strong sanctions, from the United States and from Israel, a credible military threat.
Final question, Prime Minister. There have been 88 Palestinians and 15 Israelis killed so far this year. It's the highest rate of deaths in 2 decades. Many are saying that a lot of this is down to incendiary rhetoric from some of your right-wing members of your government, and they particularly cite Bezalel Smotrich, who earlier had called for the segregation of maternity wards so Arab and Jewish newborns would be separated at birth. He's now in charge of the civil administration of the occupied West Bank. Last week he said, who was the first Palestinian king? What language do the Palestinians have? Was there ever a Palestinian currency? Is there a Palestinian history or culture? Nothing. There is no such thing as a Palestinian people. That's not helpful to anything, is it?
I think that there are a lot of statements that he made previously that he walked away from, and some he said were not accurate. In any case, they're part of my government, but they're part of my government, and I decide policy.
But do you distance yourself from comments like that?
There are many comments.
When he called for the Palestinian town of Hawara to be wiped out?
Of course not. Of course that's totally unacceptable. And he said,
someone like him
he corrected.
Should somebody?
But wait a minute. Be fair to him. I don't know if it was 20 minutes later or 30 minutes later or whatever, or a few hours later, he said, I was misunderstood. That's not what I meant. We don't believe, he doesn't believe, and by the way, I know him, got to work with him now a few months. We don't believe in collective punishment. I go after the terrorists, I go after those who support the terrorists, but I don't believe in collective punishment. I also think that you should know that the rise of Palestinian terrorism and as a consequence, the fatalities that you're talking about, actually happened in the previous government. It doubled the number of shooting incidents, drive-downs, and other things that are involved in terrorism came from the Palestinian side. And the weakness that we have here is the weakness of the Palestinian Authority that doesn't send its security forces to stop the terrorists, and therefore we have to do it. And what we are trying to do right now is calm things down, put if you will, put some kind of mechanism in place that we're trying to do with the Palestinian Authority and with others to stop the violence,
but
or at least reduce
but members of your government saying stuff like that is unbelievably incendiary.
Well, that comment on that village is absolutely right, and he walked away from it very quickly.
But his comment saying there's no such thing as Palestinian people.
Well, he has that view.
Do you have that view?
No, I think there wasn't a Palestinian people in the 19th century, clearly.
Do you think there's a Palestinian people now?
I think it galvanized, their national consciousness galvanized in the 20th century. And the question is, will it hold or into the future? That's something that has to be seen. But I think they're there. They're definitely, living among us. And we have to live among them. The problem we have with them is that they say, you're not going to live among us. The problem, the reason this conflict persists now for 100 years is because the Palestinians, led by irresponsible leaders, are resolutely opposed to a Jewish state in any boundary. So it doesn't make it, no one succeeded. Previous governments, very left-wing governments, generous governments, unbelievably concessionary governments, they gave everything, nothing helped because they are not interested in a territorial resolution. They're interested in the dissolution of the one and only Jewish state.
But so far this year, 6 times as many Palestinians have died as Israelis. That's just a fact.
Well, do you want to compare what happened in other
No, I'm just saying this year.
You want to compare other conflicts, include global conflicts?
No, I'm saying this year.
Yeah, well, because what happens is that they start shooting Israelis. We go after the terrorists. The terrorists hide inside terrorist strongholds, and to get to them, we have to fight other terrorists. Most of them, by the way, are combatants. That is, terrorists who've been hit. But in the crossfire that is there, I wouldn't judge the justice of a battle by the number of casualties on either side, because you'd be in very, very shaky historical ground, and you know that very well.